Welcome back, children. We continue with our fourth chapter, sorting materials into groups. In the last class we saw what is sorting, what is the need of sorting, and the different materials that can be used for making objects. Now in this class, and we also saw what are the factors that decide whether a material can be used for making a particular object. There the answer was, one is properties of materials and the purpose for which the object has to be used determines whether a material can be used for making a particular object or not. So in this class we will see what are the properties of materials. We will see about properties of materials. Under that, the first one is appearance. So compare some objects like materials like iron, gold, silver. All these materials are familiar to you. With wood, cardboard, then what? Paper, etc. Compare these materials. What all these substances have in common? What is the difference between these objects, these materials in their appearance? So iron looks different from gold and silver, isn't it? Iron is different. Properties of iron are different from that of gold and silver. They look different. And these materials are different from materials like wood, cardboard, paper, etc. But there is some similarities between iron, gold and silver, isn't it? Iron, gold and silver have some properties similar. So we will see what is it. Now you take materials made up of objects made up of iron, gold, silver, etc. and also wood, cardboard, paper, and also then cut it into two pieces. Cut objects made of these materials into two pieces and look at the freshly cut surface. When you look at the freshly cut surface, you can see that these objects, iron, gold, silver, etc., they have a shiny appearance. Objects like materials like iron, gold, silver, etc., when they are freshly cut, they will have a shiny appearance. We call it as luster. The shiny appearance of a material is known as lustrous. Metals are lustrous. All these iron, gold, silver, all these are metals. There are other examples too like copper, aluminium. All these are familiar to you. They are known as, they come under the same category. Okay, all these materials come under the same category. We call them as metals. And all metals, when freshly cut, they have a shiny appearance which we call as luster. But compare it with wood, cardboard and paper. Do they have a shiny appearance when they are freshly cut? No. So these materials are non-lustrous. So we can classify materials into two types based on their appearance, lustrous and non-lustrous. So all metals are lustrous. When we cut materials like metals, they have a the freshly cut surface of metals have a shiny appearance which we call as luster. But materials like wood, cardboard, paper, etc., they do not have a shiny appearance. We call them as lustrous. So this is one property. Based on appearance, we can group materials. The materials that are having luster and materials that are not having luster. Metals are materials that have luster. Then materials like wood, cardboard, paper, etc., they do not have luster. So if you are not able to cut this iron, gold, silver, etc., the surface of these metals can be rubbed with a sandpaper. Then also you can see the shiny appearance. Gold, silver are definitely shiny in appearance, but metals like iron, copper, aluminium, etc., when they come in contact with air, on long exposure to air, that shiny surface is lost. So you can just rub it with a sandpaper, you can see that shiny appearance. I hope you understood this. So one property of materials is appearance, based on which materials can be classified. Lustrous materials and non-lustrous materials. So examples for lustrous materials are metals. Metals are lustrous materials. Examples are iron, gold, silver, then two more are there, copper and aluminum. All these 5 metals are familiar to you. Iron, copper, aluminum, gold and silver are metals and they are lustrous or shiny in appearance. Okay. Then materials like wood, cardboard, paper, etc. they do not have shiny appearance, they are non-lustrous. Okay. So, if you want to make jewellery, chain, bangles, etc., we prefer lustrous materials. We cannot make ornaments out of this paper, all those things. Ornaments become beautiful when it has a shiny appearance. So, we go for metals like gold, silver, etc., which have a bright luster, bright shining appearance. Okay. Now, we move on to the second property. Hardness of materials. So, here we have 2 types. One is hard materials. One type is hard materials and the second type is soft. How do you find out whether a material is hard or not? For example, you take a piece of wood, apply force on it, try to compress it, apply force or pressure on it. Will it change its shape? No, there is no change in its shape. So, we can say that object like wood is hard and objects or materials like wood are hard because upon compression, when you compress it, there is no change in shape. So, such materials are known as hard materials, materials which are difficult to compress. When you apply force on it, they will not change their shape. Such materials are known as hard materials. I hope it is clear to you. Materials which are difficult to compress. Materials which are difficult to compress are known as hard materials. Shall we write examples for this? Tell me a few examples of materials which are hard. Materials which are difficult to compress are known as hard materials. One example I already told you. Then glass, then stone. Okay, all these are materials which are difficult to compress. When you apply force on it, they will not change their shape. Such materials are known as hard materials. The materials which are difficult to compress are known as hard materials. Examples are wood, glass, stone, etc. Now, coming to soft materials. Materials which are easy to compress, like sponge, cotton, etc. When you apply force on it, they change their shape. They are easy to compress. Such materials are known as soft materials. Materials which are easy to compress or scratch easily, which you can scratch easily. Like take a candle. Candle is made up of wax. You try to scratch it with the help of a metallic key. What happens? You can see that the wax is coming out of it, isn't it? Wax can come out of it when you scratch it with a metallic key. Similar is the case with chalk. When you compress it, it will not change its shape. But when you scratch it, the material will be coming out of it. The chalk powder will be coming out of it. So, they are also known as soft materials. So, what is the definition of soft material is? Materials which are easy to compress and that can be scratched easily are known as soft materials. Materials which can be compressed or scratched easily are known as soft materials. Examples are sponge, cotton. Then you can write other examples like wax, then chalk, etc. Will come under soft materials. I hope this division is clear to you. How materials can be classified based on their hardness. Hard materials and soft materials. So, all hard materials will come under one group and all soft materials will come under another group. So, sorting is made based on hardness here. Hard materials, soft materials. Materials which are difficult to compress are known as hard materials like wood, stone, glass, etc. Now, coming to soft materials, materials which can be compressed or scratched easily are known as soft materials. Examples are cotton, sponge. Other two examples are wax and chalk. They can be scratched easily. Cotton and sponge can be compressed easily. Okay. Now we move on to the next property. Third one, that is solubility. How can we group materials based on solubility? So, what do you mean by solubility? There are materials which dissolve in water. Solubility in water only we are testing here. So, we can find out materials which are soluble in water, which are not soluble in water. So, take 5 materials: salt, sugar, then sawdust. What is sawdust? Sawdust is a powder that we get upon cutting wood. When you cut wood, a powder comes out, that is known as sawdust. Then chalk powder, sand. Take these 5 solids. These are all solids. Mix it with water. Take these 5 solids. Take 1 teaspoon each of these solids. Then take 5 glasses. Fill them with 3/4 of water. 3/4 of these glasses should be filled with water. Now add 1 teaspoon of salt into a glass of water, into a glass containing 3/4 of water. Mix it well. What happens? What happens? Salt disappear. You do it at home and find out. Disappear completely. After mixing it, you can see that salt disappear completely. You won't be able to see any salt particles inside the glass. Similar is the case with sugar. Take 1 teaspoonful of sugar and add it to a glass containing 3/4 water. Mix it well. What happens? Again, sugar disappear completely in water. Disappears completely in water. Sugar disappears completely in water. Here what happens? Sawdust. Now again, take 1 teaspoonful of sawdust, add it to 3/4 of water taken in a glass. Mix it well. Will it disappear? Okay. So, it doesn't disappear. Doesn't disappear in water. You can see that after mixing, you can see that the sawdust particles will be settling down at the bottom of the glass. So, it will not disappear. Then chalk powder also, it will not disappear in water. Sand also. All these can use. Sawdust may not be available to you, but salt, sugar, sand will be available to you. If chalk is there, you can make powdered chalk powder and try to dissolve it in water. You will see that it will not disappear in water. Okay. So, what does it show? What do you mean by disappear completely? Disappearing means it has dissolved in water. So, salt and sugar gets completely dissolved in water. Dissolved in water, or we can say that salt and sugar are soluble in water. Salt and sugar are soluble in water. These are 2 solids which are soluble in water. Now, the solids which do not disappear in water, sawdust, sand and chalk powder, we call them as insoluble substances. They do not dissolve in water. So, insoluble in water. Examples of solids which are insoluble in water are sawdust, chalk powder and sand. Okay. So, some solids disappear completely in water or they dissolve in water. We call them as soluble solids. Examples are salt and sugar. They dissolve completely or they are soluble in water. Now, solids like sawdust. Sawdust is a powder, wood powder that comes out after cutting wood. Chalk powder and sand, they are insoluble in water. When you mix it with water, they will not disappear. So, they are insoluble in water. Now, take a few liquids and test their solubility. Lemon juice, 1 teaspoonful of lemon juice. Then 1 teaspoonful of vinegar. You know vinegar? Okay. Then mustard oil, coconut oil. You all may be having coconut oil at home. Kerosene, mannanna. Okay. Take 5 solids. Test it with water. Same way, take water. a glass containing 3/4 of water. Add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice to 3/4 of water taken in a glass. Mix it well. What do you see? Lemon juice mixes well with water. Lemon juice mixes well with water. You won't be able to see the lemon juice. It has mixed completely in water. Same is the case with vinegar. Add 1 teaspoon. Vinegar may be there at your home. So take 1 teaspoon full of vinegar. Add it to 3/4 of water taken in a glass. Mix it well with a spoon. Then observe. You can see that vinegar is not there. Vinegar has mixed completely in water. Now what is the case with mustard oil, coconut oil and kerosene? 1 teaspoon of mustard oil or coconut oil. Any oil you take, mix it with water. If mustard oil is not available, take 1 teaspoon full of coconut oil, mix it, add it to water, mix it well with spoon. Wait for some time. What will happen? You can see that oil floats on the top of water. Oil floats on the top of water. Oil layer on the top, water at the bottom. So it doesn't mix. Doesn't mix with water. Same is the case with coconut oil and kerosene. They will form separate layers on the top of water. So they do not mix. So there are liquids which mixes well with water and there are liquids which do not mix with water. So we call them as, this you have learned in 5th standard. Miscible liquids. Liquids which mix well with water, mix completely with water, dissolve completely in water. They are known as miscible liquids. Liquids which are completely soluble or liquids which mix completely in water are known as miscible liquids. Examples here are vinegar and lemon juice. Okay. Now the second type is immiscible liquids. Immiscible liquids. Examples are mustard or coconut oil, all types of oils, kerosene. So these liquids do not mix with water or they are insoluble in water. We call them as immiscible liquids. Mustard oil, coconut oil, kerosene are examples. Hope you understood. So these are liquids that mix with water and that liquids which do not mix with water. Now coming to gases which dissolve in water and the gases which do not dissolve in water. What about oxygen? Oxygen gets completely dissolved in water. That is the reason why aquatic animals and plants are capable of their respiration. Aquatic animals and plants use the oxygen which is dissolved in water. Oxygen from the atmospheric air get completely dissolved in water. That's why aquatic life survive. Aquatic plants and animals make use of this oxygen dissolved in water for their respiration. So oxygen is soluble in water. Oxygen is soluble in water. Then what about carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is also a component of air. Is it soluble in water? Yes, that's why aquatic plants are capable of performing their photosynthesis. Aquatic plants, they prepare their food in presence of carbon dioxide that is dissolved in water. So these are two gases which are soluble in water. Two gases which are soluble in water, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now let's see gases which are insoluble in water. One is nitrogen, other one is methane. Okay, methane you have learned in smaller classes. So nitrogen and methane are insoluble in water. Is it clear to you? So solids, liquids and gases can be classified on the basis of their solubility in water. Some solids are soluble in water, some solids are insoluble in water. Examples of soluble solids, salt and sugar. Insoluble solids, sawdust, sand and chalk powder. Now liquids which are soluble in water. Lemon juice, vinegar. Liquids which are insoluble in water, mustard oil, coconut oil and kerosene. We classify them as miscible liquids and immiscible liquids. And now gases are also, soluble gases are there, insoluble gases are there. Two soluble gases are oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen dissolved in water is used up by aquatic plants and animals for their respiration. Carbon dioxide dissolved in water is used up by aquatic plants for their photosynthesis. Now two gases which are insoluble in water are nitrogen and methane. I hope you understood these three properties: appearance, how materials can be classified on the basis of these three properties: appearance, lustrous and non-lustrous; hardness, hard and soft materials; solubility in water, soluble and insoluble. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you, children.